Welcome to Night Dreams Talk Radio, where we cover the latest news on UAPs, aliens, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and the great mysteries of the unknown. Hosted by Gary Anderson, this show goes deep into the paranormal, asking all the questions we all want answers to. With expert guests and real stories, Gary uncovers the truth behind the unexplained. Be sure to listen and subscribe to join over 148,000 subscribers tuning in nightly for the most intriguing paranormal talk.
Join Night Dreams Talk Radio and support the show for just 99 cents a month. Unlock exclusive content and help us dive deeper into the paranormal mysteries you love.
Who's friends with all the night dreamers talking to you at night? Gary on the radio, but maybe he's not in sight. Bigfoot's on his tail, flying UFOs, that's right. Gary's Talk Show Radio, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights. If you need a friend to talk to, he will always be there. The Night Dreamers Talk Show will fix your despair. If you want to talk conspiracies, Night Dreamers is for you. Top secret case, alien space, it's Gary with the news. Tune in on the radio, don't let Big Brother know. They're listening to everything, even Gary's late night show. If you need a friend to talk to, he will always be there. The Night Show.
Now, the latest news from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom. I'm Guy Ticker. Life as we know it could exist on Venus, a new experiment reveals. Despite being Earth's twin, Venus sizzles at temperatures reaching hundreds of degrees and is blanketed by clouds made of corrosive sulfuric acid, a colorless, carcinogenic liquid that dissolves metals, erodes our teeth, and irritates our eyes, noses, and throats. Not very friendly. As such, the rocky planet isn't considered to be much of a habitat for living organisms. It's definitely not as welcoming as Mars, Jupiter's icy moon Europa, or Saturn's Enceladus. However, scientists suspect that life that might have emerged in Venus's hellish environment could be found wafting in its noxious clouds, which are cooler than the planet's surface, and thus could support some kinds of extreme life forms. Along those lines, a new lab experiment conducted by researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, found that 19 amino acids surprisingly persisted for at least 1 month in a sulfuric acid solution that included some water. Just like Venus. I'm Guy Ticker. The news is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. To submit a story or to get all the latest news, go to nightdreamstalkradio.com. The truth is out there. You have just crossed into the realm of the unknown, where the unexplained meets reality. From UFOs to Bigfoot, from the acutely strange to the wildly wacky, and everything in between, this is your gateway to alternative talk radio. Welcome to Night Dreams Talk Radio with your host, the legend himself, Gary Anderson.
Well, it's the 27th of September. Boy, time is just going so fast. So, again, now, it looks like winter here down at the compound. So I think any time of, summer, spring, all that is now history. JC, do you know next week, former President Jimmy Carter will be turning 100?
I didn't know that, but this doesn't surprise me. The guy has done a lot. That guy's done a lot, and he's been around a while.
Even when he was in the 80s, he was building homes.
He was still going abroad and trying to talk peace and help people and countries and things.
A lot of people give Ronald Reagan credit for taxes, raising unemployment, all kinds of different things. And who was responsible back in that time frame for all that? It wasn't Reagan. It was Jimmy Carter. A lot of people did not give his presidency much credit.
Yeah, the guy did a lot, even many years after he was out of office. And he had a didn't he have a sighting he reported of a UFO?
A UFO, yes.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I don't know. Depends who you talk about. Do they really exist? Something is going on.
I don't think it's a matter if they exist. It's a matter of what are they, who are they, and why are they here, and on and on.
Well, there's still that rumor, this thing is supposed to hit Earth in 10 years. Lou Elizondo is talking about it, but he won't say what it is. But it's all over the news. Could it be a UFO? Because it's making changes. It's shifting its course, but it will take 10 years to get here. Just think, maybe they're going to come here to a barren planet. I don't know.
Yeah, or listen, maybe it's one of those big planetary bodies that comes by every thousands of years.
Yeah, but it's making shifting its course.
It is shifting.
It's shifting. Yes, that's according to NASA. Could it be, that will be the kill shot to the planet? Or maybe they're coming here to, sterilize it. Maybe they realize that we're contaminating the whole universe.
It reminds me of those movies that came out, the two that came out there. One of them Billy Bob was in, and the lady was at on the beach, and all the water went away. That's a bad sign when you're on the ocean and the water
Yeah,
leaves.
and I seen that. I saw a video last year. One of it happened in Malaysia. People were, as the water went out, guess what they started doing? They started walking out where the water was going out.
Yeah.
And then a few seconds or a minute later, guess what? They got swept away. They were gone.
Right. And some of them never ever found again, because that's like the old spider saying to the fly, come on in and I won't hurt you. It's doom.
Well, if the water goes out, you better be running the opposite way. You better get a taxi, steal a car or a bike. We have a great guest on by popular demand, Major A.Dames. He has a lot to say. Let's find out a little bit about Major A.Dames.
The world's foremost remote viewing teacher, Edward A.Dames, Major, U.S.Army retired, is a decorated military intelligence officer and an original member of the U.S.Army prototype remote viewing training program. He served as the training and operations officer for the Defense Intelligence Agency's Psychic Intelligence Collection Unit, and currently serves as executive director for the Matrix Intelligence Agency, a private consulting group. Major A.Dames was the technical consultant for the feature film Suspect Zero, a Tom Cruise-Paula Wagner production. And as such, Ed coached Sir Ben Kingsley and played a role of an FBI remote viewing instructor in the movie as well. For more on Major Edward A.Dames, visit his website, remoteviewingmatrix.com.
Well, Ed, my friend, how you been since you last were on?
I have been well, particularly because I'm sliding into retirement. And I have one more live event in November. I'll talk about that later. And then the rest of my work is personal projects in the field. Beginning January, I've talked to you about one of them before, a Bigfoot stakeout, which is a six-month project. Then I have my flagship operation, which I've been putting off for years, and that's an interesting case. It's of nostalgic value to me as well, because it's the first project that my mentor, my teacher, the father of remote viewing, Ingo Swan, asked me to help him with long ago, and that is the Le Sol Blanc, the White Bird. This was a crew, an airplane that was specially built across the Atlantic to win the Orteig Prize that was offered in 1919, $25,000 at that time. Charles Lindbergh ended up in 1927, winning that prize. But it turns out, and we found, my team has discovered that the White Bird, the Le Sol Blanc, piloted by Charles Numgasser, who was the #1 ace in World War I, French ace, and his navigator, Francois Colli, who was the #1 navigator in France. That was the crew. They had a specially designed plane designed to land on the water in Hudson Bay, New York. That was their destination. They actually beat Charles Lindbergh by 1 week, but they died in the crash in New Hampshire, and we know where the aircraft is. We've already reconned the area. So in May, I hope to actually retrieve part of that aircraft. This case, not only if it's successful, which I assume it will be on our part, it not only solves a mystery similar to Where's Amelia Earhart, which we can talk about in a minute, but it changes a page in history. They beat Charles Lindbergh by a week, and finding it doesn't matter whether they died or not in the crash, their plane made it to the U.S. to win that prize. So that's my flagship project, and I'm looking forward to that. I have other really exciting projects, but that one's a big one because it changes a page in history. Amelia Earhart, which is one of the biggest mysteries outside of UFOs in the last 100 years, 80, 90 years. She, 14 years later, disappeared after Lindbergh made this flight. By the way, when Lindbergh made that flight, everybody wanted to fly in an airplane. It was huge. Yeah. Everybody wanted to fly, who had never even thought about flying in an airplane. But Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan, her navigator, disappeared 14 years later. And all the searches have been on Gardner Island, and it's the wrong island. She's about 360 kilometers to the east on Monroe Island. And she attempted the landing. Looked like she was low on fuel. On Monroe to the northeast has a long stretch of straight beach. So she landed on that beach. Her Lockheed Electra, especially designed Electra, was intact, but it was about several months later where it was swept out to sea, and it's very deep in the trench right now. But I've got the precise locations. They lived on brackish water, both of them. They weren't injured, although Noonan may have been a little bit injured. But they lived on brackish water, and they were essentially marooned on Monroe Atoll and died there. So if you go into my blog at remoteviewingmatrix.com, there's a whole series of very high-profile projects that I've done, showpiece projects, and that's one of them. You can see the overhead of exactly where Amelia died, about 80 feet away from Fred Noonan's remains there. I'm so looking forward to getting outside again. I'm tired of being indoors.
Well, too, when you go about that what happened to her, there's so many stories. One that she landed on a sandbar, the Japanese, executed her.
I've heard of them all.
Yeah.
I've heard, but remote viewing is direct knowledge. There's no middleman. There's no analysis. Here's the target. What is the target and where is the target? Period. That's it. So, and a lot of money. It costs about $1 million to do that search in the Maldives, in Kiribati. Kiribati is just scattered islands all over the place. Some of which are almost below sea level at the time. It's very expensive. I was being sponsored by American Airlines at one point. We would have to fly out of Tarawa, where the famous battle was in the Pacific, and get to Monroe, but we were limited on how much weight we could have, and we needed a raft and some other things. 35 pounds max out of Tarawa, and I said, no, can't do it. That's why these searches for her are so expensive. They're $1 million. You need a ship, a pretty big sized boat with and lots of equipment to actually sail to Kiribati. You can't fly in there effectively.
No, but if you ever find what exactly, proof that where she was at, that would just, that's one thing that has stumped, people for so many years. So many people.
Gary, it was one of the biggest mysteries of the century.
Oh yeah,
it still is. People are still looking for it. But if I establish a good track record in terms of missing aircraft, and find and confirm the location of the Le Sault Blanc, then that's good enough for me to get any sponsor I want. I can probably use my own money because I have some gold projects that are doing quite well. We can talk about that also. I can fund my own research, but it'd be nice to get a sponsor as well, like American Airlines offered at one time. So I'll have some bona fides in the track record if I pull that plane out of the water in New Hampshire, that people will no longer doubt that I've been able to locate Amelia.
Yeah, that would sure close the whole story about it.
That's my intention. I'm 75 years old now. I got a few more years left, and I want to go out with a bang.
Oh, that would do it for you.
Yeah, that's one of the things that would do it for you. The other is, of course, all the formal contact stuff, which is the acme of my career, really, my second career.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Hopefully, if you don't want to touch it, I don't blame you. But, Art was a friend of yours, a friend of mine. And you talked about the sun kill shot. And, again, they wrote a book, Art and Whitley, the coming superstorm. And I was talking to Art like 3 days before he passed. And I was talking about, that book and the movie. And, I said, you can't, what is time? So, if it's 10 years, 20 years, or 40 years, I mean, you can't really pinpoint the exact moment. But, everything in that book is coming true. And now you look at the sun, what it's doing right now. Just a week or so ago, we could have had that kill shot that could have really did major
in
damage.
2002, that X-45 plus off the back of the sun, like I've said so often, NASA waited 2 years, and said, and this is their words, not Dr. Doom's, they said, had that been Earth-facing, that particular coronal mass ejection, I told Art Bell 2 weeks earlier, the sun's about to go on a rampage. And 2 weeks later, X-45 off the back. NASA said 2 years later that would have taken, and I quote, mankind back to the Stone Age, unquote, for reasons we talked about on your last show. But this is the beginning. We're here in Solar Cycle 25 now. The sun's doing things that are unprecedented. Go check it out yourself on the internet. Things are doing unprecedented, maximum number of solar spots already at the beginning of the solar max since 2013, I believe. And so all the things that we talked about the last show are going to happen. Just your folks better be ready. Hey, there's one thing I wanted to tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I never mentioned this to anyone, but I have a shortwave radio on my desk in front of me now, and I don't use it as much anymore. I grew up as a shortwave listener as a kid, and I love shortwave radio. And I usually tune it to the local FM radio station that airs the Coast to Coast show. But when Art Bell died, the day he died, I had not listened to Coast for a couple of months. And at 10 o'clock Pacific time, which is when Coast to Coast comes on, that radio turned on. And that day he died. And this is a very common phenomenon, by the way. Many of your audience, I'm sure, is familiar with it, where loved ones who are passed, they'll call you on the phone and say, "What was I afraid of? Don't grieve for me. Everything's okay." That kind of very common phenomenon, and some are very funny. Some are very. I know a couple that are really funny. I had my commander in a very top secret unit. One of my commanders was on the phone with Colonel Press, the head of the secret police. He was a counterintelligence commander for the Intelligence Security Command. All of us love this guy. We call him, because it's counterintelligence, we call him the head of the secret police. So we're in another office that's not connected with Colonel Press, and Colonel Press is coming over to talk to my commander, Colonel Lang, at the time. Colonel Lang's door to his office is shut, right? So Colonel Lang gets a call, and this airy voice, and call says, George Lang, is that you? Yeah, yes, sir. And he says, I won't be able to make that meeting. Well, fine, sir. Who cares? Your boss can't make the meeting, right? And then the voice just trails off. So George opens the door, and right there in front of his office, here's Colonel Press, just had a heart attack, and my buddy is trying to jumpstart his heart, and he dies right there after making the phone call. That's anal retentive right up until the end, I would say.
I would say so.
Well, that's a very, very common thing, and there's some very wonderful stories along those lines too. I don't usually talk about metaphysical and transcendental psychological things because they're not utilitarian, and most people like to hear about the utilitarian aspects of remote viewing, finding that kid in France like I did. If your audience, again, if they're interested in the story, just Google CIA psychic spy in France. You'll see how the psychic spy found the remains of this child that the gendarmes could not find, those kinds of things. But in November, I have my last seminar, my very last seminar. No more. I've already retired from training because I don't need to train anymore. All the skill sets are available to people virtual streaming. But in that seminar, I will be talking about some of the lesser known aspects of remote viewing, including personal development and paranormal things. Again, those kinds of things are not utilitarian. You can't get normally you can't get feedback, and so it's not of value in terms of getting the public to realize how powerful this unconscious tool is, and in the right hands and with the right skills. That doesn't do it. That's all New Age stuff. Not that I dislike New Agers, but I'm not a New Ager, but I'm inviting New Agers to that seminar. In fact, I'm inviting the audience. I sit down with my producer. I said, this will probably be my last show with Gary Anderson. Let's do something. Let's invite his audience to this seminar in Phoenix, November 16th and 17th. And my producer said, let's give him a 25% discount. So that's what we're going to do. We can talk about that a little while later. But I'd like to not only say hello to members of your audience, but goodbye too, because I'm not, I won't be seeing them again personally.
Oh boy, gee, are you going to still be able to come on once in a great while?
Yes, I'll come on because I'm going to continue to do these Spice of Life projects. I have for instance, I have one, and I add these to my repertoire, my portfolio of showpiece projects on my website, because I don't want to get rusty, and I love to do this stuff when I have time. The Ark of the Covenant, and I'll tell you about one big project in a minute, but Noah's Ark and Ark of the Covenant. Where are these things? Overhead photography of the locations. Cleopatra's tomb, working with the archaeologists on that project. Those kind of things are fun. And when you get to be my age, nothing's worth doing unless it's fun.
Well, how about finding the gold?
Yeah, you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, well,
okay.
You were gonna do that. Remote view where the gold is.
Okay, it's actually more of a complex subject than you think, but I think your audience will like it. And if I don't get around to some other topics tonight that I think are exciting, then I'll come back on your show again and we'll talk about those topics.
Okay.
But in November, in the November seminar, one of the subjects that I'll be reviewing, because my advanced students know how to do this, is because our seminar is in Arizona, I'm going to take a look at some Arizona lost treasures, gold treasures particularly, stagecoach robberies and things like that, and show and review for my students, intermediate level students, how to prosecute those particular targets, those kind of things. Now, in my case, and I have a long history with this, and yes, I have my own Go project, which I'll talk about in a moment. But you really have to know what you're doing. For instance, on the slopes of Mount Shasta in California, there was a stagecoach robbery, and the $50 gold slugs, which are still out there, they haven't been found. I know where they're at, but here's the clincher. Okay, each one of those slugs, because they're so rare, there's only about 3 in the world that are in private collections. They're at this point in time worth about $900,000 each slug, and there are 50 of them in a Wells Fargo box. All right. Well, you would think that would be a great target for a remote viewer like me with RV geofix precision, right? I mean, I can find anything. Well, I know where that box is, but here's the deal. So I find one 50, and I put one on the market through a broker, a trusted broker, and there are trusted brokers. And he markets that for $850,000, $900,000. He gets a 10%, 15% cut, whatever. And then that gets added to my income tax, but it's as a collectible, because that's what gold coins are. Now, I have to, for IRS, I have to establish the provenance of the coin. When did I get the coin? How much was it worth at that time? Between what it was worth at that time, whether my grandfather gave it to me, I could lie, to the IRS. I could get away with lying maybe a little bit for a while, but I'll get into that. So the coin, now I have to pay capital gains on whatever how much money I made. All right, and then the whole numismatic community in the world is excited because here's a MS-95, mint condition coin. Where did he get that? So I'm descended upon by these guys. Where did you get that? How did oh, my grandfather gave it to me, which is a lie, because if I tell the truth, that box is on federal land, and disturbing an archaeological site, which is defined as anything more than 25 years old, is a felony. So off to the pokey I go if I tell the truth.
You mean you get locked up and put in prison for the rest of your life?
Yeah, no, that's the problem with something else like with something like that. And if I put a second coin on the market, now the suspicions are really up there. So not only do I have the IRS knocking on my door, but I have the FBI knocking on my door too. Where did you get this? Because, and not just them, but Wells Fargo, because believe it or not, Wells Fargo still owns that box. So that's the problem with things like that. So my what I do is go after gold nuggets, because a nugget is just additional income in California, and you just bite the bullet and pay the additional income. I find a nugget, I sell it for its spot value, melt value, and things like that. I could go into all the details about assay, and I sell it, and it's just additional income. So I'm not facing prison time.
Okay,
right?
Now we need to take a quick break. When we come back, also, I got a question about the Lost Dutchman mine. I'm just curious if you ever remote viewed that, because that is like folklore like you wouldn't believe. Whoever finds that, well, they might be very, very rich. We'll be back with A.Dames right after this. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com if you want to get a hold of me and find out what guests we got planned, or you got an idea of a guest. Again, just go to our website and contact us. We'll be right back with A.Dames right after this.
1, 2, 3, 4. I hate the way they always kiss in the kitchen, acting like they're still just 21. They always seem to go for walks on Sundays and doing things they did when they were young. So I'll ask when I go home, but maybe the whole point's not to know what's the secret to keeping the love alive. What's the secret of keeping the love alive for so long? I'm glad they still go out and hit the town, dancing till their feet begin to hurt. He said, son, I hope you get close to what I found, 'cause there ain't
Take a journey of adventure and discovery for the enigmatic giants of the forests. Read On the Trail of Bigfoot by Mike Dupler. The author himself describes it this way. Having found possible Sasquatch evidence, namely trees driven into the ground upside down, thought to be territory markers, led me to investigate this creature in my native Ohio. Several years and many forays into Bigfoot territory, I have found incredible evidence which inspired my book, On the Trail of Bigfoot. Bigfoot is alive and has many fantastic abilities. The evidence is out there for all to see, but you need to know what to look for. My book will inspire those who have answered the call to seek this elusive creature, the Bigfoot. The truth is out there. Read On the Trail of Bigfoot by Mike Dupler. Available now at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and IndieBound.org. And now, broadcasting live from the edge of reality, here's the man with 54 years behind the mic, your host, Gary Anderson.
You know, JC, he keeps rubbing that in, 54 years.
I heard that. He kind of put a little emphasis on the 4.
Actually, he's wrong. It's actually 55 years. It's September 11th.
Yeah, you're going to have to revamp that. You're going up a year.
Oh, God, I'm getting old.
You're getting something.
Yeah, and I'm broke, too. Anyway, we're back with Major A.Dames. You know, the Lost Dutchman mine. People have literally been trying to find that, well, God, for forever. Have you ever tried to remote view that?
Well, if you look at the clinics, these are advanced clinics, mostly for advanced students. Don't attempt to try this stuff as a newbie. You can download all the fundamentals of technical remote viewing at my site. It's all virtual streaming, and then all the clinics start to amp up in terms of complexity. But the Lost Dutchman mine, in technical remote viewing, we can use that as a target, as to set up a target in the matrix, the universal mind. But we don't. We want to be more precise. So what we do, and one thing, historically, there's more than one Dutchman. So there's more than one Lost Dutchman mine. So we have to take things like that into consideration, or we'll spend a whole bunch of time for nothing. It will be all of our sessions will be for nothing. Our descriptive data of where mind is. So we have to first make sure that we're dealing with the right Dutchman. So we'll use his name, his exact name, rather than the Lost Dutchman mine. So we use his name, and then we qualify the search with word ideas, patterns of information that make sure that we're not looking at his prospecting, at anything that does with its general prospecting, but the particular largest find that he had, those kinds of things. We really spend a lot of time to make sure we know what we're looking for in terms of time, space, people, places, things, and events. So once we're sure that we look at this guy, I can't remember his name right now, his key find, that mine, then we first describe the mine, get a good description of how it looks from the outside, the surrounding terrain, riverbeds or stream beds, those kinds of things. We do that. Then we use RV geofix, the same thing I used in April to find that child's remains in France for the French television audience. Use those to home in on the actual target. So yes, one of my professionals used that as a target, and I have not talked to him about his results.
Okay, interesting. Hey, Ed, we got a caller, if you don't mind. Who do we have? Who do we have out there?
This is Tom.
Hi, Tom. You got a question for Ed?
Yes, sir. My question for your guest is: no matter who wins or who loses the presidential election that's coming up, what do you see for the next 4 years in general for the United States?
Well, I haven't used remote viewing for anything like that. That's called crystal ball stuff in our work. We don't do it, except for things that loom very large in the future. Those we do download, but the kill shot is the key example of that. But as far as politics, I'm not involved. I don't get involved in politics, but the general sense of, as I mentioned to Gary on the last show, my just general gut feeling. If you're asking for me personally, it's over. Our country's finished. We've had a great ride for 230 plus years, the last 60 or so on somebody else's credit card. And so we're looking at a global economic collapse, as I predicted years ago, and people laughed at me, but they're not laughing anymore. I just have one warning, folks. Do everything that you can to prevent a central bank digital currency. Do everything you can, because you're chattel after that. You're absolute slaves if that comes down, because it's connected with all of the rubber stamped immunizations that will be mandated in certain places and countries. And I don't see any way around martial law in our country in the big cities for the next few years for a myriad of reasons. But on that happy note,
well, I will say this. I'm going to jump in. When my daughter was like about 11 or 12, maybe 10, she found one of my wife was throwing her old checkbooks away, and she was going to tear them up, but she had them out to be thrown away. And my daughter went up to us and said, well, hey, why don't you use the check to go buy stuff? And we had a hard time of saying there's not enough funds in that account to buy what you're talking about. Well, it's the same way with our country right now. People don't realize we're broke.
We're bankrupt.
More than that.
We've been bankrupt for a long time. We're living on fumes, just fumes. And that's gone pretty far as we can push it. I don't want to get into all the details economically about it, because your audience is probably privy and astute enough to know what's going on. They can see for themselves. But man, dig in. Just dig in.
That's the only thing. What is going on Mars?
I mentioned to a lot of folks that there are no extraterrestrials on Earth. We've covered that before. These are ultra-terrestrials, and now the big guns are agreeing with me about that these are ultra-terrestrials. They can parse in and out of material existence. Those are the ones that were connected with the Travis Walton abduction and with the Ariel School event in 1994 in Rua, the town of Rua, outside of Harare, Zimbabwe. These are these ultra-terrestrials. They present themselves as a facade, but in reality, if you do pick one up with your camera, they pop in as a flash of long-wave ultraviolet. They don't exist. They're essentially visible, but they an artifact of their presence is a flicker in the ultraviolet spectrum. And most of the UAPs, I think I told you that I was on the very first UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. We didn't call it that back in 1990. We call it UFO meeting. The very first one, I was the youngest member in 1990. We met at the BDM Corporation, I think in Alexander, outside of Washington, D.C. They had a SCIF, a sensitive compartment and information facility, because they did all the research. They were the research arm, about 150 people, research arm for Ford Motor Corporation. Ford had a bunch of classified contracts, so they needed a SCIF. And we met there off campus, so we had plausible deniability that DOD was interested in UFOs, or the CIA. CIA didn't have a charter to study UFOs at that time either. And we didn't want to muck up the waters over there at the Pentagon. So we met, me and Jacques. I still have the attendee list, big guns, all with every clearance you could imagine. Well, you couldn't imagine some of the clearances because civilians would never, ever fathom some of the things that were going on. So we met there, and a long story short is that all these modern UAP meetings that are spending taxpayers' dollars, things like that, They are babes in the woods. They have no friggin' idea at all about the reality of what are bouncing back and forth. And you can see some of these. When I told you I have showpiece projects on my website, and I have the overhead of these actual objects moving and where their origin is. And many of them that appear on in the Western Hemisphere and in South America to a certain degree, their origin, they're emanating from, I use the word emanating for lack of a better word, they're emanating from the Pucao Seamount, which is about 2,500 feet to the top underwater in the Pacific. And that seamount is about 150 miles west-northwest from Easter Island. You can see it on overhead. They're inside the seamount, inside. And when they stop, and they're not plasmas or whatever, they're very, very different looking, extremely intelligent, beyond comprehension. So when we have a formal meeting, and we will, they have to step down to our level of intelligence, because we certainly cannot comprehend what they are. They're beyond comprehension, beyond our ken. And of course, we've been studying them for 35 years. So I can't go into 35 years of background, but I can answer your discrete questions.
Well, I got another question that kind of ties in a way. How about these people, whistleblowers, on disclosure, coming out and talking about UAPs, wreckage, reclaiming?
Gary, the best they have is secondhand information, but mostly it's third hand, fourth hand, fifth hand. They cannot point to any evidence whatsoever. At that period, I mean that they've got no evidence, and to follow, instead of following the money, follow their ideas, their statements back, and leads to fluff, nothing. So, like I say, they're just babes in the woods, and it makes money. It makes money to do that. I could do that too. In fact, I should have been. That's like I'm going to be a evangelical preacher. I could make a ton. I know how to work a crowd. I have the gift of gab. I can sell a map of the Holy Land. This map of the Holy Land will cure everything from the common cold to syphilis. Send in your $100 or $500 now. I will send you a free autographed picture of Jesus Christ. I could make. Think how much money I could make. That kind of thing. Well, that's like these guys here. They know they can make money. The public, I feel so sorry for. If I had not been, nor was in the place now that I'm at, I wouldn't know what to believe either. But that's the worst of it, is a lot of these people are pure sheep. They do not think for themselves. They do not analyze, and they're suckers. But they spend money and time on this, and that's what the game is all about, at that level. Let's get back to Mars.
Yeah, I am really curious about Mars.
Yeah, so Mars, if you do the background work in terms of remote viewing, Joe McMonagle particularly in Project 8200 with Fred Atwater, Fred was the first operations officer of the remote viewing unit. I was the second, and then when it passed over to the Defense Intelligence Agency. You'll see that there's remote viewing documents, archives about past humanoid life on Mars. People who haven't read that will be pretty intrigued about that. And then Mars lost its atmosphere, and these people died. So you can imagine how long ago that was in time. But there's still something moving up there. Now, there are microbes. I did this work personally. There are microbes that are in the crevices, the deep crevices of Mars. They exist. There are actual microbes there, which is one of the reasons you have the trace amounts of, I think it's methane in the air. I can't remember. But there are microbes there. But there are also machines, sentient machines. And the way we found out about this was twofold. There are two taxed vectors that we took, remote viewing vectors, to look at Enigma that pointed to these sentient machines. One is crop circles, which I'll talk about momentarily, and the other is the loss of the Russian Phoebus 2 spacecraft. This was right at the tail end. We're right at the tail end of the Cold War, and the Russian. I had a company, and my chairman of the board, he begged me to be chairman of the board, was General Albert Stubblebine. And General Stubblebine was in contact with the Russians. The Russians wondered, if you go and look at Phoebus 2, the spacecraft, there's the last photo that Phoebus 2 took is either in the background, there's either Phoebus or Deimos, the two satellites of Mars, natural satellites of Mars, but there's a big elongated lighted thing, a light or light reflected off of something, and that's the last photograph that the Phoebus 2 spacecraft took before it was decommissioned, before it stopped communicating with Earth. Something actually touched it and broke it. I'll explain. So anyway, we did a special report on that for the Russians too. Paul Smith and I, with Paul is another one of the originally trained remote viewers, excellent remote viewer. He and I were the principals on that study, and we wanted to find out for the Russians, what happened. So what we both described was this a sand dollar looking thing, big, about I'd say 30 feet across, 30 feet in diameter, resting in on the ground in sort of a bowl on the surface of Mars. And then again, we're looking at the demise, what caused the loss of transmission of the Phoebus 2. This thing tilts up, changes its geometry. Its actual geometry changes, and it's gone. So when I try to sketch it in motion, I can't sketch the rear part, the aft part of this thing that's moving. And I said, what the heck? Why can't I sketch the rear? I can sketch the front, but not the rear. What's going on? Turn to find out it's moving at relativistic speeds. So the front and the back are in different times. The rear of this object is in another time. That's why I can only sketch the front or the rear. So that was a real revelation in terms of my remote viewing experience and knowledge and something else like that. Anyway, it got very close to the Phoebus 2 spacecraft, whatever this disc-like thing that no longer looks like a disc. Paul Smith described it as looking like the Sydney Opera House as it changed geometries. It got very close, and there was something mechanical that struck the Phoebus 2. And I don't think it was this object itself. It was something else, looked like a rock or whatever, but it broke the spacecraft. But in further study, this thing that's resting down there, it was expecting something. And it thought that the Phoebus 2 was something that it was expecting, but it found out no. So it's like a dog an animal that chews something up and spits it out, type of analogy. Hey, that's not what I wanted. So the takeaway is that this thing was waiting for something to guide, like a waveguide or something like that, to come down to the planet, and it's been waiting there a long time. So that's that. But the other thing is crop circles.
Okay, now Ed, we just probably have enough time left for the crop circles, and I really want to hear that one.
Yeah. So crop circles are for we described how they're formed by these orbs. They cut the crop circle. We went into that. This is another report, a special report that we did. But the whole thing is choreographed from underground locations, not too many, maybe only one, on Mars. And what's choreographing them are sentient machines. They look like robots. They look just like robots. And what they're doing is they're creating a milieu in Earth's atmosphere that grabs carbon, perhaps nitrogen and other elements, and makes a tool. At a distance, they're making a tool out of Earth's atmospheric components, and the tool cuts the crop circle the way it is supposed to be cut at any given time, and then the tool dissipates back into its component in the atmosphere, and amazing stuff. But again, and I could find these locations with a map on Mars, but without feedback, the public won't believe what we're. It's hard for the public to accept what we're doing, because there's no feedback, as in the case of finding a child, finding gold nuggets, finding the lost Dutchman mine, the tomb of Cleopatra. This convinces the public that these higher level tools, which can be taught, you can learn how to do this in terms of human potential, are real. And you can do this too if you put the right, by dint of labor.
How long would it take somebody?
This should be taught in elementary school.
How long would it take somebody to learn a little bit about remote viewing? Just the basic.
The fundamentals can be mastered in 6 months. The fundamentals are downloadable as a package. That can be learned in 6 months. After that, it takes about a total of 2 years to really start to edge up on being an advanced viewer. Before you dismiss me, I want to give you that code for your listeners for that 25% discount.
And also give it to my, the whole thing to my producer. Get a hold of him. We'll put it up on our website too.
All right, we'll just do that, and that's exclusive for nobody else, just for your audience, because I'd like to meet them in Phoenix, and I'm tired of the same old faces, after 30 years of workshops and stuff like that. I'm not really tired, but it'd be nice to see some new faces there, so I can say hello and goodbye. My swan song, not Ingo Swan, but my swan song.
Gee, it won't be the same. Can I ask you one question, and then you can give the code? Of everything remote viewing you've done, what was the strangest one?
Yeah, it wasn't that strange. It's just impactful, very, very impactful. I was in love with one of my students a long time ago, and she became a professional. And as a birthday present, I gave her as a training target the topical search. Topical search is different than a discrete thing, but it still exists as a pattern of information. God's infinite love. I thought, well, I don't know what she's going to describe or where her mind will go, but it's going to be something halcyon and beautiful. I'm sure of that. God's infinite love, right? She 2 hours later, she's got 30 pages of data. She said, "Why would you give me a target like this? I thought you loved me, and it's my birthday." I said, "Okay," and I look at the final work, and it's a drawing of John Lacey at that time heading to Old Sparky. John Lacey was a serial killer. It's a drawing of him heading to the electric chair.
Oh, wow.
I'm thinking, God's infinite love. And I got it. I said, infinite love. Well, that extends to the worst of the worst. Not, I would have pulled the switch myself. But that was one of the most impactful sessions I've ever seen.
Oh, wow. How about for the weirdest object you remote viewed?
Oh,
the weirdest.
That was Robert Bigelow, when he ran NIDS, the National Institute of Discovery Sciences. His chief scientist, Colm Keller, fantastic biologist, he gave me a target about a rancher's experience. They had just gelded a calf or something. 2 ranchers gelded, and 10 minutes later, they had walked away. They were about 1,000 feet away, working on another calf. 10 minutes later, the remains of this calf, the first calf, dropped down from the sky, plopped onto the ranch, just sliced and diced, worse than a cattle mutilation. Not much left of it at all. Here's a bunch of the cattle, about 15 or 20 head of steer, pressed up against the fence. Remember the movie Blazing Saddles?
Oh, yeah.
Mungo want to go kill the sheriff. So Mungo's got the piano. He's pressing all the ranchers against the wall. It's like that. These cows trying to get away from something. The faithful ranch dog, and you know how loyal those are, right? They'll defend you and your ranch to the death. It takes off beeline like a rocket and never comes back. Because dogs and cats, to a certain degree, can see into the ultraviolet, into the long wave of ultraviolet. A lot of other animals can do that too. So the thing that we described that lifted this calf up and sliced and diced it looked like a huge, huge jellyfish with tentacles and everything. It was right out of a horror movie. And it lifted the cap up, did all kinds of things to it, not with any metallic objects. There was nothing there that was metallic, and just dropped what was left of it after it was metabolized or whatever down onto the ground. And so I don't want to be around one of those, whatever that was.
I don't either. Now, again, you have 2 minutes. You want to give that code, and what do you want to say to the listeners before I let you go, my friend?
Say again?
I said, what if you want to give that code out and an opportunity, whatever you want to say to the listeners? You got like 2.5 minutes.
Okay, so my website, where everything is at, all the learning materials, and my fun stuff, my showpiece projects, remoteviewingmatrix.com, and the code for my final seminar, my career's final seminar, coming up November 16th and 17th, is NT, like night, NT Dreams 25. That's the promo code at checkout if you want to sign up, and I hope you do, for my final seminar in November. And take a look at the seminar, the topics that we're going to cover in that seminar. A lot of them are for advanced students, but you'll be very many of them are topics that I've never taught to my students or brought up before, as self-development, self-improvement types of things. But take a look at the list of topics, and I think you will want to come to Phoenix then. I look forward to meeting you. Gary, you're invited too, anytime.
Okay, my friend. Well, hey, you have a great weekend. Try to stay out of trouble. And again, we'll be talking to you very shortly again when we have Whitley on. So you're going to be on too that night. So stay out of trouble, will you?
I'll try my best. When you at 75, nothing's worth doing unless it's fun. And man, fun means trouble, and trouble means fun.
You're not 75. Reverse the numbers. You're 57. Okay, my friend, you take care.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Well, JC, we got another great guest. Boy, I love having A.Dames on. You know that.
Oh, Ed's great. He's very entertaining and very educational, and just a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. So we got some great stuff coming up here in the next half an hour. We're going to be talking with who and what about.
We're going to be talking with Keith Thompson, and we're going to be talking about the UFO paradox and maybe a little bit about disclosure. He digs deep into this stuff.
Oh, yeah. He's a news reporter, isn't he? Correspondent?
He is an author, independent journalist, talk radio host, former TV talk show host, and former U.S. Senate staff member also.
Yeah. Well, everybody out there, I noticed there's more people on chat here tonight. We gained 4,000 subscribers on YouTube last night.
I know. And not only that, one episode we did gained 11,000 views.
Yeah. Oh, the one we actually with Ed and Whitley and all those others, we actually hit. I couldn't believe it. We hit over 233,000 hits on that show. Views. Crazy, isn't it?
It is. That's what it was before we went live on the air. I don't know what it is now, but yeah, it's really taken off, that one show, big time.
Okay, well, we're going to be back with our next guest, so stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Time slips. A haunted office building on a haunted street. A haunted coal town. Mysterious black cats. Unexplained light anomalies, UFOs, UAPs in the air and on the ground, bridges in liminal spaces, cryptids, shamans, and a werewolf. Disclosure: you don't need a ranch in Utah. All this and more happens in rural southwestern Pennsylvania. Coming soon from Haunted Hills and Hollows 1 and 2 author Kevin Paul, Politics and the Paranormal in Greene County, Pennsylvania. Available this fall on Amazon and at other fine booksellers.
So soon you'll take me up in your arms, too late to beg you or cancel it, though I know it must be the killing time, unwillingly mine. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin, he will wait until you give yourself to him. In starlit night.
You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, the home of Night Dreams Talk Radio, with Gary Anderson, syndicated worldwide. Paranormal Talk Radio, like you remember.
And we are back. You know, JC, wouldn't you like to remote view and figure out where one of the lost Dutchman mines could be?
Yeah, there's a lot of treasure out there to remote view, definitely for sure. And, you know, a lot of lost cities like in South America and even how the pyramids were built, maybe.
You know, when they found last year that the pyramids in the Amazon from the Mayas, you know, deep in the jungles, you know, that's one thing about satellites and what they're capable of doing nowadays. I wonder if there was any gold there, because it was a lot of these pyramids, when they found them, they found a lot of gold and silver.
Yeah, with today's technology, with the LiDAR, boy, there's so much there. And plus the fabled city of El Dorado. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, our next guest is Keith Thompson. We're going to be talking about, well, the paradox about UFOs. Let's find out a little information, and we need him to turn his camera on for everybody can see him. So right now, let's get this information.
Keith Thompson is an author, independent journalist, talk radio host, former TV talk show host, and former U.S. Senate staff member. His articles have appeared in the New York Times, Esquire, San Francisco Chronicle, Idaho Statesman, and the Pacific Sun. He lives in northern Florida. You can visit Keith Thompson at his website, www.thompsonatlarge.com.
Well, welcome to the show, Keith. How are you doing this Friday night?
Well, Gary, I'm doing well. It's great to be here, and I'm particularly glad to be able to say I'm doing well. You probably know, northern Florida has just gone through a pretty serious weather emergency, but it didn't even come close to where I am in the Panhandle. But my thoughts and prayers go out to the people near Tallahassee and the Big Bend area who are dealing with the aftermath of this extreme hurricane.
Well, you guys still haven't recovered from the last one totally.
Right. The state, this is an occupational hazard of living in Florida, especially during this season, 6 months of the year, thereabouts. So, yeah, there have been fewer this year than we were told were statistically predicted. So I'm always glad when we beat the statistics on that side of things, on the positive side.
Well, I got to ask you a question. Were you interested when you were a child? You know, I don't know your age. I'm going on 73, but you know, when I was a kid, all these B movies, you know, the alien with one eye and the helmet, you know, the brain controlling mankind. Were you interested in aliens and UFOs as a child?
Well, yes, but not for those reasons. I wasn't influenced by popular culture, the films. My introduction to the subject came in the 6th grade at age 12, when it was my turn to give a current events report to the class. The teacher would assign each of us at various times to follow an item in the news, bring it in, and be the reporter for the class. And I was living in Northwest Ohio, not far from Michigan, where there was a legendary UFO sighting in which the phrase swamp gas was popularized in association with UFOs. So I studied this case, which lasted 3 or 4 days, in terms of the classic UFO flap, with repeated sightings of apparent objects in the sky that couldn't be explained, lights, and so forth. And so I told my class about this and told about the debate. I had never had any experience, any exposure to the UFO topic. And one of my classmates, when it came time to take questions, said, well, Keith, do you think it's flying saucers from outer space? Do you think it's aliens? And the class laughed nervously. And I said, well, honestly, I don't know what they saw, but that's one interpretation. And after my report was done, my teacher came up in front of the class with me, and she said, what I think Keith is trying to say is that there's a difference between what people observe and how they interpret it. Something like this can be interpreted in many different ways. Isn't that right, Keith? I said, yes, there are many different theories for UFOs. She goes, well, the challenge is to keep an open mind and ask relevant questions. And I thought, wow, that was a formative experience for me, Gary, because here I was 12. It was my turn to give a report. I followed the news on this subject, and I stood there and did it, and I got a pat on the back that I'd done a good job. In fact, she called me at that point. She said, Mr. Thompson, she said, looking at me enthusiastically, she said, you have the makings of a journalist or maybe a scientist, who knows, possibly even a detective. And then she said, follow the evidence wherever it leads with anything in life. And again, that was incredible, affirming advice to give to a young person. And it influenced me to keep tracking this with that kind of open mind.
Well, when you really think about it, again, I've been doing this for now 55 years behind a microphone. And I heard every story about UFOs, ETs, abductions, cattle mutilation you could ever think about. If I had the time, I would write a book. But here's the thing. Some people are so naive, they think that we are the only life that is intelligence. There's no other life out there at all. And when I was a child, my grandmother and grandfather, they were Mennonite. My grandmother's grandfather or father brought the Mennonite church into Minnesota or North Dakotas back years ago. And, I asked her, I said, do things like UFOs and ETs exist? Does God really exist? And she says, don't ever ask me that again, because you'll go crazy. But people just don't want to. Either you got the crowd that believe everything, and then you got the other crowd, oh no, we're the only intelligent. There's nothing out there. I want to know what's going on.
Gary, that's absolutely great. By the way, I grew up in Northwest Ohio, as I mentioned, and I also was near Mennonites. I knew the Mennonite community quite well with their wagons and their austere black clothing and the norms they kept, the discipline, and their desire not to be part of the modern world, which I always thought was a pretty amazing thing. It's not that I envied that. In any case, you're absolutely right. Somebody said, do you believe in non-human intelligence? So to kind of open up the question, I said, have you ever had a dog? You ever had a golden retriever? Cat? There's non-human intelligence all around. And he said, well, that's not what I'm talking about. And I said, I know what you're not talking about, but we're not the only intelligence even on this planet in conventional terms. And certainly there's evidence, whether it's from outer space, in terms of the extraterrestrial hypothesis, or other dimensions, there are forms of intelligence in addition to ours. So to me, human intelligence is a particularly limited form of the phenomenon. Intelligence and consciousness are widespread. That's my perspective.
Well, after I had Michio Kaku on here a couple years ago, again, we're very close to cracking the next dimension. So, these people that think they see ghosts, it might not be ghosts. It could be something we can't even comprehend. But all this stuff that's going on, it's really frustrating for the average person. You got people saying that they have crashed UFOs. I get people mad at me when I say this, but I'll be honest with you. To me, what the Congress did was a circus. I'll be honest with you. After the show, I was watching the reruns of the Congress. I had my soda, I had my popcorn back, and it was better than any B movie. Yeah, oh, no, Roswell never happened. This never happened. This never happened. Oh, we don't have no proof of anything. What's your take on disclosure?
Well, we're living in a time when the disclosure game is definitely heating up. As you know, David Grush, former military intelligence official, started asking questions, and it took him to the hangars of McDonnell Douglas and other aerospace companies. And that's where he has been told he has met with individuals. And I don't have the facts other than as he has reported them. But he makes serious claims that he has interacted with individuals who have worked on programs involving recovered craft and recovered alien bodies, or have worked with those who have. He got the names, David Grush got the names, the dates, the locations, delivered them to the Inspector General of the intelligence community. It's a fancy title for the guy who is an ombudsman, has jurisdiction to ask all the hard questions of the intelligence community. So, to the best of my knowledge, he's investigating this, and whistleblowers are said to be coming forward anytime. But that is part of the dilemma here. We've been told for 80 years, any day now, Gary, the lid on the government cover-up is going to blow sky high, and it never does. So this time may be different because this has moved further along than has happened before. But again, as you're right, as you say, there are going to be hearings this fall, allegedly in the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. So who are they going to call this time? Who are they going to bring forward? Will they be able to penetrate beyond the level that, say, Luis Elizondo in his new book, Imminent, which I have not read, but
great book.
Okay, well, I've been watching his appearances, and he's in a dilemma as Grush is. He can say, "Look, I have seen the following." He'll talk about it. He says, "I have seen evidence about Roswell, and it was a crash." And then the reporter says, "Can you tell us more?" "No, I can't tell you any more, because I'm right at the edge of my security clearance as it is." Now, people say, "Well, that is irresponsible." Well, what's true is that security clearances are real things. And as Daniel Ellsberg found out when he released the Pentagon Papers decades ago, telling the truth about our involvement in Vietnam, he paid the price for that. He was jailed and indicted, I should say, at least, and very nearly convicted. I believe he was convicted, but it was overturned. So you go up against the intelligence apparatus, the military-industrial complex, and you will have some serious consequences.
Well, you could also disappear too.
That's exactly right. No, Gary, that's exactly right. So, I don't know what's going to come of, frankly, of the disclosure movement, but it's the disclosure clues, but they're out there. And I must say, I'm not among those in the UFO world who speculate beyond my own pay grade. I don't know. I don't have the answers to this. There are a lot of UFO researchers and pundits and podcasters who like to say they know exactly what's going on, but they can't reveal their sources.
Well, a lot of it, because I'll be honest with you, I've been in entertainment broadcasting all these years. A lot of them say it because they want subscribers or ratings.
Oh, that's right. And most of them don't even have a military background that they're trying to preserve military security clearance. So when they say they can't say it because they'd burn their sources, well, if you've got sources telling you stuff of that magnitude, why would you make an agreement not to reveal the evidence for it? Maybe you can conceal the source. I'm all for preserving sources and methods of legitimate national security. I'm an American patriot. I don't want to compromise our standing in the world to Russia or China or Iran. So I'm 100% behind those who don't want to compromise our sources and methods. But as you say, people in the UFO world, they claim they've got the data, they've got the facts, and sign up for behind my paywall and join my website, only $12 a month. That's the motivation.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I said this so many times. I have books on UFOs like you wouldn't believe. And I've never seen people steal it. When it comes to ufology, when they write a book, they're stealing chapters out of other people's books and incorporating them in their books. I never seen anything like this before. And again, I have had phone calls from people saying, next week, the president is going to come out and announce, and these are some credible people. They're going to announce that there is UFOs. Yeah, sure. Never happens.
Gary, I get asked a lot, how did I go from being a legitimate mainstream investigative journalist to shifting, supposedly, into being a UFO writer? And I go, wait a minute, I don't accept the premise of that question. I've been an investigative journalist. You're right. I've covered all kinds of topics, health and fitness, education, criminal justice, you name it. And I love what I wrote before I got involved with the subject. But it is as an investigative journalist that I turned to this subject as well. So I'm not here to pat myself on the back, but I have very high standards about how I cover this thing. If people give me information, I find out whether they are, well, I find out for sure that they're willing to be on the record. I don't tend to talk with people off the record. I'm willing to hear what they say, but I will not quote somebody and say, I was told off the record, Gary. No. Also, I quote people from their books. I have in my book, The UFO Paradox, I've got long sections in the back, bibliography sections, where I cite all my sources, including phone call interviews. I put the dates and the times. No, that's my job. You may remember in the Watergate era when two young reporters named Woodward and Bernstein would come with their editor, Ben Bradley. Said, Ben, I've got a source on the Watergate story. He goes, good. Now bring me 2 sources, maybe 3. No, this is a really good source, they'd say. And Bradley would say, I'm glad you trust the source. I don't know the source. The Nixon will own this newspaper if we get it wrong. And he was right. They were uncovering a criminal conspiracy involving the cover-up of the Watergate matter. So they went back to work each time, got 2 sources, 3 sources, including the one called Deep Throat. They broke the story. They got the Pulitzer Prize. So I'm a great believer in getting not just 1 source or 2 sources, but 3 sources when there is a controversial claim being made.
Well, here's the one thing. I think that, again, a lot of people say if the disclosure actually happened, and we were told that there is life out there that maybe has been visiting Earth, watching us, maybe doing abductions, doing experiments, whatever. I still think if it came out from the government, I think people would kind of panic. A lot of them would. Now, a lot of people say, oh, no, they wouldn't panic. But again, here's the other side of the coin. Let's face it, if a government came out and tomorrow said, yes, we're being visited by UFOs, after all these years, let's say from 1947 to now, I would never trust the government again. Anything they say.
That's the thing, Gary. They would be admitting that we're telling you the truth now, but we've been lying to you for 47, or not 47, since 1947. And as for Roswell, I don't know how they would confirm it, except if they were really willing to finally come out and put everything on the table. They'd have to have photographs of the crash scene before the crash was recovered, and they'd have to have bodies, and there probably still would be bodies. I don't know how they'd be preserved that long, but not an expert on embalming. It's not a very pleasant thought to think about, but they bring that out as well. I frankly wonder, in this age of a credibility gap, when we routinely don't believe anything, including who's been in charge of the White House for the past 3 years. It's an open question. And I say that not as a partisan, please. I'd say that if it was the Republicans. This is a pretty unusual situation we have right now in our country. So even if the president, no matter who it is, the current one or one of the next ones, comes out and gives a news conference and says, I'm here to announce that we are ready to disclose that we are not alone. Well, what's the proof for that? What would be the means of confirming it? I think the debunkers would continue to still say, no, that's something that's been invented by Hollywood. That's artificial intelligence. Now, I don't frankly know how we would confirm it, except that there's so much, Gary, as you know, circumstantial evidence, photographs, radar, and the reports of aliens. I want to mention that today is the 20th anniversary of the death of John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist who put his career on the line, as you know, to study the alien abduction phenomenon.
Oh, yeah. And again, even if they came out, then would you trust the government on anything else they've told you about? See, that's the dilemma we're in. The government, I don't think, will come out and tell us. There are certain individuals, I'm not going to mention their name, but for the last 15 years, well, in 3 months, it's going to be major disclosure. 3 months, then 3 months go by. Oh, in another 2 months. And this has been going on for 15 years. And is they want it so bad, or maybe they're doing it when you can give misinformation at the same time? It's just kind of weird.
Exactly. And a New York Times writer, James, probably know Leslie Kean. She helped break the 2017 story that revealed that the Pentagon, after spending decades insulting UFO witnesses and claiming that there was nothing going on, nothing in the sky that didn't belong there, it was finally disclosed that there was a secret UFO task force, which is no longer secret. So I recently heard Leslie Kean on a podcast on UFOs, and she was asked what does she think is going to happen now that the Inspector General of the IC, the intelligence community, supposedly has the names, dates, and locations that David Grush has provided. She said, I don't know, but he's very likely getting the facts. But then she said, frankly, I don't know. And I say this in a way that surprises me. I don't know that we actually hold all the cards about disclosure. And the host of the show said, what are you saying, Leslie? She said, I'm not certain, but that the non-human intelligence might be preventing disclosure. Now, she didn't go any further, but that's a pretty far out idea. That, what would be the ultimatum? What would be the leverage? Can you kind of follow this out? If you were to write a screenplay or do a movie, the non-human intelligence says, we're not going to let you reveal. If you do reveal that we're here, we will do what? The following: blow up the earth, planning an invasion? I don't know. I say that all very speculative.
Yeah, but it could be like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They push a button and we're gone.
Yep, that's true. I hope it's as much of a great literary adventure as the Hitchhiker's Guide was. Was it Douglas Adams, right? He was marvelous in that work. Makes me want to read it again. If you listeners, if you haven't, and viewers, if you don't know it, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe is a fantastic piece of work.
Oh, it is. And the other thing, honestly, Keith, it really frustrates me. I've heard it so many times interviewing people. Well, ETs would never allow a nuclear exchange on this planet. I wouldn't want to go to the casino on that one.
No, I wouldn't either. I mean, would non-human intelligence have allowed the October 7th Middle East horrific interactions? I mean, there are things going on this. Would the non-human intelligence look back and have a lackadaisical attitude toward what's happening between Russia and Ukraine right now? Yeah, I don't either, Gary. It's very easy to speculate. We talk about this as being an advanced intelligence, but advanced in what sense? We don't know how morally or spiritually advanced they are. If they are coming here across great distances across galaxies and so forth, then they're clearly advanced in terms of some technology. But it doesn't necessarily follow that they're morally evolved or spiritually evolved. The Native Americans who welcomed the Spanish conquistadores the ancestors of the Native Americans might have some second thoughts about the ease with which they welcomed those who would take over the North American continent from the original settlers.
And
the original
slaughter them
inhabitants. Too. So likewise, the great beneficent non-human intelligence is going to save us. But on the other hand, it could be malevolent. Lou Elizondo has been talking about. He says we don't know that it's not benevolent. But when you think about it, that's a kind of convoluted way to. We don't know that it is or is not benevolent.
But Keith,
and we don't know that it's from outer space. It could be from under the oceans. It could be, as you know, a parallel civilization right in our midst.
It could be any of those. But again, regardless how advanced the civilization is, and I don't think we're ever going to make it to a level 1, to be honest with you. But if you go back to the biblical times, Cain and Abel, what did they do? And what has happened ever since? Wars and killing on this planet nonstop. Nonstop. And it hasn't stopped as of today, in this minute. Just because if there is ETs out there and they're whatever more advanced than us, how do we know they still don't have that same trait? Because we haven't got rid of it.
No, that's the very point. They may have evolved technologically. They may have uncovered the secrets of zero-point energy or the secrets of gravity and all of the things we're still trying to figure out at CERN and other advanced laboratories of physics. But it doesn't mean that they're spiritually, and mentally, psychologically evolved. We kind of like to think they must be, but it just doesn't follow. There are a lot of things humans are very good at. We have enormous creativity. At our best. And at the same time, some of the most creative individuals can have deeply dark, shadowy aspects that are unexplored and manifest as monstrous traits and characteristics.
And you're so right. I have to get you on, if you'd like to come back, for an hour, and we can really continue and dig really deep in this whole subject. But before I have to let you go, How long did it take you to write this book?
I spent about a year actually writing it, really putting it together. Once I said it's my time to do it. And one of the breakthroughs for me was when I decided to include my own experiences. So when I do come back, I'll talk about how I decided to write in this book about my near-death experience when I was in my 20s, before the near-death experience was even known to me in terms of its stages. So I've had paranormal and extraordinary spiritual experiences myself, and I decided to bring those into this book because the UFO witnesses often get overlooked, and I decided I wanted to help build solidarity with them. So if you invite me back sometime, we can go even deeper on this subject.
It sounds like it'd be an awesome idea. Where can they find your book, the name of the book, and all that?
Okay, the name of the book is The UFO Paradox, and there's no single paradox. There are many, including that the evidence for this is pretty good, but we still have official debunkers saying, oh, there's nothing going on. Go home, people. Return to your little lives. So it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, as well as bookstores. Online, it's available as a print book, an ebook, and an audiobook. And my website, again, for people who want to get in touch with me or find out, again, how to find the book, is www.thompsonatlarge.com. Well, and in doubt, go to Google or go to a web search and do Keith Thompson UFOs, and that will get you there.
Well, Keith, I really enjoyed having you on. I'll have my producer get a hold of you next week, and we'll book you for a full hour, and we can dig. Well, I like to know about all this other stuff. So you have a great weekend, will you?
I certainly will, Gary, and thank you for your hospitality. It's great talking to you.
Okay, you take care. Well, JC, think about all these things that's going on.
Yes, there's so much. You are right. There's so much going on, and you know what else? Every time there's something going on that we need to put all the American people's attention to, what happens? Something else comes out to distract us.
Yeah, if anybody wants to call in, we're going to go for about another 5 to 10 minutes. The number here at the studio is 1-253-203-6777. That's better than 666. You know that. That's 1-253-203-6777. Give me a call. We'll talk about UFOs or disclosure or remote viewing, whatever you want to talk about, right here on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Have you ever remote viewed anything, JC?
I have, actually. I gave it a whirl a few years back, and I thought I would remote view my friend who lived about 20 miles away at the time. I hadn't seen him in a while, but I talked to him once in a while, over Messenger or something. And so I just gave it a shot. What was coming to me, I said, are you sitting at a desk with a black lady looking over your shoulder while you're typing something? And I was right, obviously. What a shot that was, but he was freaking out. He thought I was looking in his windows or I had a camera somewhere. He swore up and down.
Were you looking for the windows and you're not being truthful?
No, it was totally honest. Was what happened. I just told him what just came to me. It was, and the weird part was the town he lived in. It's like there's not a lot of ethnic people living there, so the odds of me even seeing that was amazing. I guess here it was his new girlfriend. I didn't even know he had a new girlfriend.
Okay, come on, people, you can call in. Other than having always Tom call in, the number here is 1-253-203-6777. Come on, out of all these people subscribed to this channel. Of course, most of the people are listening to it worldwide. They don't listen to it while it's live. You go to TV, right? And you watch your favorite show. You know what they're bringing back?
What?
You know that E.T., my favorite alien. Resident Alien. Okay, my mind had a brain fart.
All right. Oh, for what, season 3 or 4?
Yeah, whatever. They're making 11 or 12 episodes new to see how it goes. But they cut the budget down so much, they said. But even the actors had to take a big pay cut. But that was my favorite show. You know that.
Yeah, the first 2 or 3 seasons I thought were great. So I hate to see that. Because it was on Sci-Fi Channel for a while.
Yeah, so it's going to be on a different network, too. But I'd like to see it back, and they said they're making it right now.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it, too. Yeah, it was funny how they twisted it. And the one episode where he was flipping off his alien friends coming to destroy Earth was funny.
I always got a kick out how much he could eat.
Oh, especially pizzas.
Oh yeah, he loved pizzas.
Yeah. A few of them. That was a funny show. It really was.
I really got into it. It reminded me of the old TV show My Favorite Martian with Bill Bixby, and I can't remember the other actor.
Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about. I can't. His name's on the tip of my tongue, but yeah, he was.
How do you know it's on the tip of your tongue and not in the back of your tongue?
I can see it. I can see.
Oh, you can see your tongue?
Barely. Yeah.
Oh, we got a caller. Let's see. You want to flip a coin? Let's see. Who do we have here? Who do we have?
Hey, this is Art.
Hi, Art.
Art. Hey, how you doing?
How you doing? You staying out of trouble?
Okay. No, I love it tonight. A lot to talk about, but I guess I can try to share UFOs that are of different shapes, and then the black stealthy type. I saw one here where I'm living, just right off my balcony, was like a size of a aircraft carrier. It was like a domino shape. It had the tower on it. It was black, and it came out of the sky, like behind the sky. It just came out and then went behind just disappeared through like a curtain of the sky. And the following day, there was a chevron, and it was low to the ground next to these power lines. And before I could take a picture of it, it just vanished like they do have in Star Trek, the flash of like a Star of David type flash, and it was gone. The following day, there was this triangle that came right over my rooftop of my apartment, about 60 feet above me. And it had that big circle in the center right in the center, it started pixelating, and it digitized into a twin engine commercial airplane. And then when it clicked, it went solid. It started moving towards over the street, and then it just disappeared. And I'm in between a military Los Alamitos Air Force base to the other side of the south of that would be where they put the ammunition in the ground. So they have those bunkers where they put the warheads and all that from the Seal Beach Naval Shipyard. So lots of activity here, but these were black stealthy crafts, and they all disappeared in different ways than also the orbs. They can vanish or cloak or whatever they're doing, but there's so much, Gary. I just wanted to give you a little bit of that on the black stealthy type.
Oh, can I ask you a
Them,
question?
but
Art, now when you saw those, did any of them make any weird noise? Did you hear any noise?
No sound, very quiet, and they were all of them are at least over 100 feet off the ground, and probably, one 60 feet above me. The other one was about maybe one block, my intersection from where I'm looking, and the other one was about maybe 200 yards. And there's what the whole thing is. There's these power lines, the Edison power lines that come across a street from me, and so basically they're right on top of those things. And just for the black stealthy type, the orbs, to share with people, some people when we see them, they'll blank out, and others will see them with me. They're in different sizes, they're different colors, but they seem to, some of them, when you do spot them with your eye contact, they know it. They stop immediately. Again, these are also by the air base. I have a excellent picture, but my phone got wet, and I'd love to get that. If I can, I'll share it with you. But it came following some vehicles. It was about the size of a soccer ball, and it came to the intersection, and when I took a picture of it, it froze, and then it came over my adjacent parking lot of my apartment, and it came right at my level. I'm on a 4-story apartment. I'm on the 3rd story, and it came right towards me, about 30 feet away. I took the second picture, and it swelled up to the size of a basketball, and you could see the liquid inside, and then it just vanished.
Were you scared, Art? Were you scared when it came up to you?
I never got scared of any one of them, but the scared on this one was, what if I didn't take a picture? Would it have come up to my balcony because it was headed right towards me, about 30 feet from me. If I can get those pictures, I will share them with you. I got to get that phone fixed if they kept the storage in there. But many other videos I've had, and I think I send you a few, but
Oh, yeah.
I had that one where that cigar shake came right out. I just got lucky and I took a picture of it. And as soon as it knew I took a picture, boom, it vanishes. So they do have an intelligence. When you spot them, they know that what you're doing almost. Like, I'm getting my camera ready and I'm going to take that picture, and it's like, no, you're not. And it just flash and take off. But there's many different ones. There's the, share real quickly, there was a walnut shaped one, but the size of a Volkswagen. And it came on television on one of those UFO shows, and the people drew it exactly what I saw. So I don't know if they were in my neighborhood, and it was the same everything, same detail to the T. I was driving with my friend. We were coming over this hilltop facing towards Catalina, and the one that you got in the 14th century painting, the man inside the craft, it was like that with the spikes in the back, and it's like a cone shape. Well, this one popped out. As it popped out, my friend passed out, and the cones it was a little bit bigger, and it had the different spikes a little different than on that picture. But that was about 10 years ago, and what's the strange part is just that when it disappeared, he woke up, and it just seems to have an intelligence, these things. There's many more. I don't want to take the whole night.
We only got another minute, so.
Yes, I just wanted to let you know. I mean, it's tremendous. It's a lot of pressure on me because there's so much, and I think I love to hear somebody like your speaker. I wish I could talk to somebody, where you can tell the person and you can show pictures, and you can. I have other friends. I'll tell you real quickly, a second. So my friend, he showed me a video of his house, in front of his house, 2 aliens in a round craft spinning real fast in front of his front yard window, and there were green aliens inside. There's 2 of them looking right at him, and I'm looking at this thing. I know where he lives. I know what it looks like. It was impossible for somebody to do a CG. I know he doesn't do that, and it was just mind-boggling how it kind of like controlled him, in the sense that he said he just went and blanked out, but he has that video, and I know he's not going to ever share it. But it seemed to be like the intelligence that they were curious and looking in at him. And as I'm looking at it off his phone, it just gives you an eerie feeling that, even off the phone, that they're sensitizing you in a way. It's just, but there's a lot of detail in what happened, and he's got other videos. And just like I do, we have it with shadow people and, the paranormal, and these things are all combined, paranormal anomalies and UFOs and aliens. And I'll stop it right there. But, I believe it, and and it's hard to have people say they don't believe. But, experiencing these things is just something that, it feels like, why am I getting lucky to do so and the others don't?
Well, you know what, Art, there's other people. They just don't come forward. And Oh,
yeah, and I heard... Right. I heard you on your show that somebody said there's sheep out there. There's people that just don't hear it when you say they just don't believe it or don't want to hear it, or is this something maybe just does... I believe this. There's something out there that, because of my experience, that's controlling the minds of people, because they could put them to sleep, or they can give them, some sort of confusion to where they can't comprehend it. And I've had a lot of dealing with talking with people just purposely. Hey, I saw a UFO, and then they start twitching and they can't handle it. They got to talk about going to get a hamburger or something. They can't. They don't want to. It's like they don't want to hear it. Or they can't hear it.
Yeah, they don't want to digest it. Hey, Art, I want to thank you for calling in.
No, I thank you, and it's a great show. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, my friend.
Good night.
You take care.
Okay, we'll see you. Okay, bye-bye.
Well, that is it. People are sheep. They are scared, JC, to really want to digest that we're not alone. This universe is so vast, and we're still learning a droplet at a time.
Yes, and there are so many people that have witnessed things that they keep it to themselves, Gary. I have listen, all my investigating with different things, sometimes they come forward 5 years, 10 years, and sometimes they never come forward with what they've seen.
Yeah, we'll take one more call and then we're going to wrap up the night. Again, the number here is 1-253-203-6777. That's 1-253-203-6777. Have you had an encounter? Have you seen a craft? You know, a lot of people, JC, just don't want to admit they saw something because they're scared to sit there and say, I saw a UFO or I seen something else. But something is so strange out here. And again, we're not the only droplet in the universe. We know that. And we'd be so naive to think that we are the only droplet.
Right. Plus, we've been preconditioned from adolescence all the way up through, and it carries on through generation. That that they're not there, or they don't exist, or we're the only one. But who's to say? I think they touched on it earlier. They're not just from outer space. Maybe they're interdimensional beings.
We don't know. But then again, when you think about it, again, we're not the only intelligent person in the campground. We're not the only intelligent life, period. People don't give credit to other things out there that exist. And, like you remember the X-Files? Mulder was always trying. In fact, he actually at the end, he had his proof. By the way, they're going to bring back a limited amount of episodes of the X-File. Did you know that, my friend?
No, I know they did it a few years ago, and it was just limited, unfortunately. But I'm looking forward to it.
They agreed to it, so I don't know when they're going to do it. They have to do it between their schedule, but they both agreed to do another limited thing. So that is going to be good.
Yes, I've seen
the proof is out there, my friend.
It is, and it was on that poster on his wall in the basement of the FBI building.
Oh, it's in actually my hallway too, by the way. You don't have one?
No, I don't have one. I used that one years ago. I don't know whatever happened to it.
I don't know. Maybe it went to Nebraska.
Or maybe it went to that galaxy far, far
away. When you really think about it, disclosure. How could the government, when you really think about this, how could the government actually come out and admit that there is ETs, there is UAPs? I don't like the word UAPs. UFOs. Flying disc, whatever, flying saucer, whatever you want to call it, a pizza plate, I don't know. But, we're not the only ones out here. And, this has been going on so many years. So I just can't buy that these things don't exist. Oh, come on. I mean, look at all the Earth-like planets we haven't even discovered. A radio wave, it took, God, I don't know how many tens of thousands of years. I think almost 1 million years. They just got it the other day.
Mm-hmm. And you're right. And there's a plethora of reasons why they'll never come out. And you mentioned the radio waves. Could you imagine some of the radio waves that's gone out since 1938 Nuremberg, to some of the stuff that some of these beings are hearing and be like, what the heck is going on that little planet?
Well, they'll think we're very uncivilized. That's what they're going to think.
Well, yeah, and here's the other catch-22. Everything you look up and see is in the past, and they receive these radio signals. The time that we get one back, we've all died. And
their planet, their star, their solar system could be gone
completely.
Yeah, it's like us.
Yeah,
maybe we're not even here. Maybe we just are.
Maybe we
were, but like you talk about times about ghost hunting, there could be something there that is not really there, but it's just like a recording of playing over and over. Maybe that's what our Earth was, and it's being played out in the galaxy over and over again, like a B movie.
Right, or maybe we're just a science project of an alien, and we're sitting in their attic. Hopefully they don't throw us to the curb one day.
Oh, by the way, I want to say a big shout out to, Tom, Metatron Power and Light. We have December. We got Barb out there. And we have, I think, X out there.
X ? And Art for calling in.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of people that we don't know who they are, don't we?
No, we don't know. But
they're hiding from us.
they're on the download listening in.
I can't wait to have, God, A.Dames back on.
Yeah, that's going to be a double header. We're going to have Whitley and Ed on the same show. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah. And we actually probably should have seen if they would like to be on and talk back and forth, all three of us. That's what I can see, Dorch. No, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, well, that'd be something. But yeah, it's going to be a good show either way, so you don't want to miss that. And I'm going to tell you something else, Gary.
What are you going to tell me?
You better write this down because October 11th, we got a special guest coming on.
Oh, Betty Boop from the cartoons?
Even better.
Who do we have? Who do we have? Wait a minute. Let me get my feet on the ground. Let me take a breath. Okay, who do we have?
We have Lou Elizondo coming on, and he has this very popular book out right now. He's going to come on and talk about what's going on, what he's been through, what he can talk about.
Okay, what's the name of the book?
Eminent. Isn't it Eminent, I think?
Eminent. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, I recommend you get a hold of that book and read it. I'll tell you, it is a good read. You can read it probably over 2 nights. And it is really, it will make you wonder what is going on.
And here is the real juicy part. If you read that book, and when he comes on, and some of the things he might say you can't talk about or it kind of relates, you'll know what dots to connect with what he's talking about in that book. So you might think about that.
Life is really scary, isn't it? When you really think about it. We got so much things going on. Disclosure could maybe really happen one day. I don't know when. I still think it's going to take, well, it's 2 things scenario. 1, it'll take one to crash in a populated area. 2, that it already has. You ever think maybe the politicians from that movie, 1967 or 69, the invasion of the body snatchers? I'm just wondering if the politicians are, been cloned.
Or maybe they're them shape-shifting lizard people, as the one guy who's very popular and controversial says that they are. You know who I'm talking about, I'm sure.
No, I don't. I wouldn't have the foggiest idea.
The ex-soccer player from it.
Okay, well, that's a little too much.
Yeah. But anyway, listen, we'd love to get him on the show to talk about that, actually. But, listen, that's been in lore and legends for years with some of these. And allegedly, some of the politicians, like you just touched on, are not who they say they are.
Well, a lot of times for all the years that Biden's been president, they said that there's been a body double.
Well, then they dropped the ball because they should have had him, one of them, or unless they're both got ill or something. I don't know.
I'm not going to touch that one with a 10-foot pole.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, looking forward to. We got some great guests coming.
I still think we could have a better Congress and Senate, and we can out of these people. You need to go to like 10 cities and go to Skid Row, and offer these people, the people who are down and out, a year's supply of Muscatel. And all they have to do is fill the seats in the Congress and the Senate. And the one who really needs it the most will make him the president.
Yeah.
Can't do any worse, I can tell you that.
Well, you never know. Well, time will tell.
They're taking pennies out of circulation?
Well, I didn't know that, but I've heard rumors of such things. But listen, pennies they're not what they used to be. Anything after 1983 or 82.
What can you buy for a penny?
They're not even copper in it. They're mostly zinc. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you had enough of them, you could put them on the bottom of your boat where it doesn't corrode.
Oh no, copper corrodes.
No, they're not copper. They're zinc with a copper plating.
Yeah. And then there was like a 3 or 4 year period during the big one, the WW2, that they were zinc also.
Yeah. Well, isn't that telling you something right there?
Yeah, it could be. But yeah, most all copper coins, I think, from 82 or 83. Now they're not really copper anymore.
Well, yeah. Well, look at your quarter. Look at everything. I mean, it's really scary.
Yeah, well, there you go. Since the mid '60s, silver's not silver coins anymore. They're clad or nickel plated or whatever.
Yeah, well, there was a guy being interviewed. He has a prop store that he sells stuff for, for movie productions, for movie props.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he has all these $1, well, not $1, $20 bills, $100 bills, right? And it says, it looks really authentic, but it says right on there, money prop on it, down at the bottom. And people have been actually using them and getting away with it. But here's the thing, though. Here is the thing. Their $20 bill is worth more than our $20 bill and its prop.
Yeah, it's a collector item.
Yeah.
Yeah. I seen the same similar situation about 30 years ago. A guy had a, I don't know, 2-3 gallon bucket full of fake silver coins, like Morgan has. They use them for props, I guess for some kind of production. But boy, they look really real. But you can tell he had a different sound to them.
Yeah, well, yeah. But just like my studio, it's all prop. It's nothing real here.
Yeah, props. Everything's props.
Yeah. So, what's your, you've been advanced to Monday host on Night Dreams Talk Radio, not on YouTube, but on all the apps like Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart, Spreaker, and all that. Your next guest, you have a lady guest. What are you going to be talking about?
Oh, my next guest is Mandy Cummings. She is 1/3 of the Ghost Sisters group. They're all 3 sisters. They go out there and they get in some kind of ghostly hijinks, scary. You would not believe some of the stuff, wild and crazy stuff that they have encountered. I couldn't believe it. And you're going to hear it Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, right here on Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. And again, check out Dr. J.C. Now you're going, how could JC be a doctor? He is. He's been noted for many, many years as the doctor of paranormal. Ghost hunting. Get rid of that evil spirit that it's been hunting you. He's been known to try and to remove those. So it's a very interesting show. I really recommend you tune in and listen to it. You can, you can find it on your favorite app. And don't forget, if you're listening to us on an app and not watching reruns, like Leave It to Beaver here on YouTube, you can just, again, Bluetooth it. So if you're going to work, if you got one of the later cars, you can Bluetooth your cell phone and listen to us in stereo. Again, to a lot of the people who are listening to my show on the apps out there, you can actually watch me. You can see my sexy face and body right here on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Just go to YouTube. And if you go to YouTube, make sure you hit that bell. That's very important. And give us a thumbs up. If you're listening to us on Apple or iHeart, give us a good review. If it wasn't for you out there, and especially the truckers, we wouldn't be where we're at today. We're almost at 154,000 subscribers. We're right now 7 subscribers short and growing over to 154,000.
We'll hit that within the next hour, I would think. And you're right, the truckers are the lifeblood of this country. If we didn't have them, we would be shut down.
And I'm sorry, people are saying, to me, like, well, why do you need donations? Well, again, yes, we make a little money with advertising. We get a little bit of money from the ads that are placed on our show on YouTube and on all the apps. But to do what we're doing, the cost to put this show on, people don't realize it's not free. It costs a lot of money. We used a lot of server bandwidth, and that is very expensive. Let alone we have to use a business internet to stream all this out. Very expensive. And again, to put the show on, with all the apps, all the stuff it takes behind the scene, we can't do it for free. And again, if you really like the show, just buy us a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. 99 cents for a cup of tea. That is for a month, not just one time. Or you buy a cup of coffee, it's $4.99 for the entire month. What you're going to get is you might be one of the lucky people and get a Night Dreams Talk Radio t-shirt or a mouse pad or a tumbler or a mug. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to give out a few of those things to our people that join the thing. So hey, that's better than going to the casino. You can go with a casino for 99 cents. What are you going to get? You go down there for $4.99. What are you going to get? Nothing. Here you have a chance of getting a cool T-shirt with the alien on it, or a UFO, or God forbid, Dr. JC or me.
Yeah, there's a lot of overhead. It all adds up in the end. So we, to put on a quality show that we do, there's a lot of overhead. It doesn't come for free.
Oh yeah, and promoting the show up on all the apps, everybody wants money, and it wasn't so bad, because we on the internet side, JC, we had about 1 million downloads per episode, but on YouTube now too. I mean, it's crazy. A lot of work now goes into the show. I mean, I am spending about 10 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure that this show is good and decent. And a lot of the feedback, they're actually saying that our show is like going to be, well, it's for Alternative Talk Radio, we're going to be one of the top shows very shortly.
Yeah, compared to a lot of our competitors who
they're not competitors, they're just other shows. And
buddy, millions out
there's
there.
4 million podcasts out there. 4 million. There's 1 billion different programs on YouTube alone. 1 billion, just a little over 1 billion. I heard that from my rep at Google YouTube.
That's a lot of bandwidth, Gary. Think about
it. Yeah, 4 million podcasts.
Yeah.
And how many of that 4 million are doing what we do? But yet here we are. We're rocking and going.
Yeah, and that's 4 billion signals going out into the speed of light out to these other.
What happens if I can't pay my power bill?
Yeah. Oh boy.
Well, we got 2 minutes. Are you going to do anything exciting Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, I'm going to try. You know what? I've still got a weekend left to try to catch that 8.5 pound lunker bass there. I'm going to try to get him. Not going to keep him. I always put him back. But, just the thrill of it. He looked at me about a month ago and laughed at me. But I'm going to give it a whirl.
Well, another thing, too. You said the weather's still hot there, right?
Yeah, before it gets cold and the fishing really...
Okay, I got a cure for it. Go wash your damn Jeep tomorrow. And then guess what? It'll rain and be chilly.
It's going to rain anyway, I think. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well,
but
don't put that tutu on and go out there and chanting, with that, whatever you do to make it rain. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah, I got to save that for Halloween. I don't want to,
Now, no tomatoes this Halloween, okay?
No,
I saw pictures of your red house afterwards last year.
Yeah, no, that you live and learn.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll be back on Wednesday, and next week, who do we have?
Well, listen, we got Dr. Bruce Rappiano coming on
Rappiano,
Wednesday.
Yes.
He's a former abductee, and then followed by Thursday, we got Andy Marcel coming on. Him and his buddy Darcy Ware. They made a documentary. They went to Puerto Rico and talked to the actual guy that released the video of the UFO that's very famous. So they're going to talk to him about this.
And who else do we have?
And then I've been looking forward to this one. We got Friday the 4th. We got Jack Sarfati coming on. Listen, this guy has lived a life. He has interacted with a lot of people in the UFO field, the science field, CIA field, you name it. Boy, the stuff he can tell you. It's going to be amazing.
Anybody else?
We don't have enough hours for him.
Okay, but then the following week we have Lou on. Who else do we have on that week?
Oh, yeah, we got Matthew Bailey coming on the 9th, talking about the dangers of AI, followed by Dr. John Bradley on the 10th. He's a criminologist. He's going to talk about, why do some actors, millionaires steal things, or why are criminals? A different wide range of stuff we're going to cover.
So make sure you tell your friends about Night Dreams, and I'll catch you on the other side. Make sure you catch the Dr. JC show on your favorite app, Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right on here on Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Everybody have a good one. We'll catch you on the other side.
Who's friends with all the night dreamers, talking to you at night? Gary on the radio, but maybe he's not inside. Bigfoot's on his tail, flying UFOs, that's right. Gary's talk show radio and